Elite Assembly. Step up to see flashes the ToyLeet crew. We're the kings of the game, yeah, the chosen few. From the shadows we rise with the rarest finds. Collect them, respect them, we're one of a kind. ToyLeet, we're in the streets. Elite with defeats in this collectible feast. ToyLeet, never discreet. We're the heart of the beat, where our playmates meet. Check our stacks, our collection supreme. Limited editions, every collector's dream. We're the myths, we're the legends, with every drop. Taking over the block, we never stop. In the alleys where the echoes play, ToyLeet's the name, hear what we say. Rising, thriving, always vibing. In our realm we're always driving. ToyLeet, bringing the street, the live ToyLeet, setting the pace. With the snap of the case and a click of the lock, ToyLeet's on top and we're ready to rock. Collecting more than just toys, we're up. We're up. We're up. ToyLeet, never the street, we're the heart of the beat, where our playmates meet. We're the tree, we're the ToyLeet, watch the throne, cause in this zone, we never admit defeat. Come for the thrill, stay for the chase, ToyLeet's in the place, set in the pace.
Awesome. So the next thing here, little preview.
From plastic to panels, the heroes take the stage. ToyLeet Takeover, here, let's turn another page. Animal warriors, raw kingdoms, brave and bold. G.I. Joe on the front line, the stories to be told. Savage crucibles, might, action force takes flight. Turbo power ignites from the space night. Toys and comics merging where legends come alive. Akxion Figs and Mr. Wundrful, let's dive. Top toy to comic crossovers. Join us for the ride. ToyLeet's got the scoop, it's gonna be a sight. So like, subscribe, and join the show. ToyLeet Takeover, let's go, go, go. So like, subscribe, join the show. ToyLeet Takeover, let's go, go, go.
So that's
every time you hear that song, I can just picture you sitting at your desk with the little tiny keyboard, just pushing, making those little piano notes and stuff in there. Good stuff, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, I thought that was a cool one.
Two boys singing back up with your daughter, right? Singing all the vocals.
You don't want me to sing. This voice is only good.
That's why I said your boys and your daughter.
Oh yeah. So this is the topic. The main topic here is, from plastic to panels, the toys to comic crossovers. Again, this isn't, Ed, Akxion Figs, or me, Mr. Wundrful, claiming that these are the best. This is our, our view of what is currently some of the items that we think are the coolest, right? Yes. These are the ones that we like. And we want to kind of discuss, where they've done good, what, what they brought from a toy to a comic or a comic to a toy, and kind of how that crossovers happen. We're not talking cartoons. We're not talking movies. We're just talking paper to plastic.
That's right.
Plastic to paper.
Yeah. So if you think about it, you could go in forever with, Batman and all, DC and Marvel and all the
Marvel
toys, right? I mean, so this is kind of a lot of ones that were modern ones that we're kind of focused on right now that are really cool and just have awesome, figures to go along with comics. So
yeah. Sorry, I just read Ted's comment. That's a good one. It's only good for cutting promos. Exactly. Right. It's only good for heel turns, to be honest.
That's right.
So the first one here, it's been around for a long time, right? And we know
many iterations of it, right?
Exactly. The many iterations of G.I. Joe. I'm gonna let you run this one, Ed. You're a Joe guy.
Yeah. So Joe's, I mean, Joe's been around since the 60s, and even back in the 60s, a lot of people don't know this, but Joe had little pamphlets and comic books that were actually like a single comic book page where they kind of gave kids ideas what to do with the new products they were releasing, whether it was a winter trooper out uniform or something like that. Right. And that kind of evolved into a Super Joe theme, which was basically really more superhero based G.I. Joe. And then they launched the Real American Hero. And one of the things that came out of the Real American Hero was the comic book, which Larry Hama, really created. And Larry Hama's a great guy. I mean, I got to sit down with Larry Hama for, I don't know, I sat and talked to him probably for about an hour at a con one time behind his table, and just, he showed me pictures of the real life guys that he based some of the characters on that he was in Vietnam with and stuff like that. So,
wow.
But there's also a new Kickstarter coming out for G.I. Joe, that G.I. Joe compendium that's coming out. So I think that launches this week sometime for Joe June, which covers a lot of the old comic books and all the like the mission files and all the little side comic book stories that came out.
So to be clear on that, I just want to take a step back. Are you talking about the G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero compendium set?
Yes.
That is already live. 21 days to go.
Oh, okay.
$1.7 million already funded, and 4,847 backers funded in 6 minutes from when it went live. So you are getting that compendium. I was going to give some news on that because that's adjacent, right? But yeah, that is a really cool set.
And what's the buy-in on that?
I got to check it out, but it's done by Skybound, so it's a reputable company.
Yeah, definitely.
I think to get the compendium one, it's $30. To get the Hall of Heroes, which is the larger, I haven't read too much on it, but like $50 for the next tier. To the next tier, it's like $75 for the Destro one. To get, I'm going to scroll all the way down and find like the all-in piece, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an all-in. Oh, there was a Snake Eyes. So
while you're doing that, I'm just going to bring this up real quick.
Yep.
So tonight, Punk's son had his commencement for graduation from high school. So congrats to you and your son, Punk.
Yes, sir.
Much love to you guys. Hopefully he does something with it.
Yeah. There's like a his tank, which is like $600, and it comes with a bunch of stuff. So that's like the most expensive one, with all the way down to $25. I'd have to double check what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's coming.
That book is big enough to take out a fucking grizzly bear with. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Jeez, that thing is huge.
Yeah, it is big. It's big. So there's a bunch. I think maybe what it is, maybe I misunderstood it, but maybe it's one series, but you can
you get one book, and you can either choose a blue one for Joe or a red one for Cobra.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. That's what I'm seeing.
Or if you're crazy, you can go for both.
Yeah, if you're a major collector. But but
the cool thing is it's got all the original comics and then all the little side arcs that they did.
That's
so
cool.
It's not just the main line. It's got all the little side missions and stuff that they did. So,
okay.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, going back to what you're saying, right, is they have a ton of stuff. And in the most recent rendition of the toys, you've got these classifieds, which they had the Yo Joe June stream this morning, and you saw some of the newer stuff coming, but they've done a great job. And I didn't read the comics as a kid. I was a cartoon guy because of Sergeant Slaughter and wrestling. Yep. But to me, I went and picked up this G.I. Joe book because of Chad and Jeremy over there. Yep. We're working on the Joe's on Joe's stream there, which is on hold or whatnot for now. But I got this and started reading. I love it. It's a really good read.
Yep.
And, for me,
the modern day, like IDW and the modern day Joe stuff it's more directed for like adult readers, where the one back in the 80s was kind of adult theme, but it was still along the lines of the cartoon, where it was still a little bit 80s comic book vine, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
but like in the newer ones, like they go into some like real deep, relationships and death and all sorts of stuff, right? It's not your kid's comic book.
Exactly. And being honest, most of the comics that we're going to talk about tonight aren't your kids' comics.
Right, exactly.
But the toys can be used by the kids, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I love the fact that Joe gives you something, and this goes back to something we've talked about before, Ed, you and I, maybe online or on stream or off. But, one of the things for me is I love a toy that I can collect. I can add my own world and my own mind to, but also that has something that preps me up on it. And I like iterations. I like to see, continuation and whatnot for the streams so that I can, enjoy that ongoing, story, right?
Yeah. And this pick here is of the big bow that I just got from Hella Dope Toys. And as Ted affectionately calls him, because somebody else named him this, he is called Major Nipples because his nipples are painted quite so they stick out. Like you can, it's kind of like the bat nipples on the Batman suit, right? They painted them so they really stick out. So
yep. Absolutely. Good deal. And then if we go on to the next one, I'll talk a little bit about this one. And this is Akxion Force, right? And this is a recent one within the last 24 months or so, give or take. Akxion Force came out with the mission files. And I think this is a copy of the graphic novel where they grouped a bunch of the stories together. And I enjoyed it because I like the lore. I like this. Yeah. It's kind of modern day twist to, the Akxion Force, the Vala, took that IP and kind of went his own route with it. Right. And I love it. They had the California fall off Earth.
Yeah. I picked this up at PowerCon. Actually, when I picked it up, Bobby autographed it for me. So
that's awesome.
I haven't even read it yet because it's been sitting in with all my other PowerCon stickers and books and stuff that I picked up that I've never even got into. But something I definitely want to read. On a side note with this, if you really want to get into the lore with the comic books and the file cards, Largo and Wilhelm Toy and Hobby on Largo's channel do that ATF 3 or whatever they're calling it. I think it's ATF 3, where they dive into the comic book and the file card lore and of each
and the book
and the book. Yep, and they go right along with all the characters and stuff. So that's a really cool little add-on if anybody's interested in the lore.
Yeah, and to me, I love it because Carrick and Bone Collector, you get that story of them, and then more specifically, Carrick, you get some previews into his stuff. So for me, I enjoy it because it's got that modern. I don't want to say. I mean, it's post-apocalyptic to a degree. Yep. But it's modern and it gives more that adult theme to it, right?
Yep.
To me, it's something that I feel like I could see in a present movie. Something that I would watch in the theater and stuff. So
it's going to be interesting to see when Bobby does actually get his Akxion Force movie out.
Yeah.
If it ever does come to fruition, which I know he's been working on it for a while now. But how much of the comic book is actually going to be part of that storyline? That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. How much the actual lore that we've been exposed to applies to the actual movie would be really it'd be interesting because I love the lore that we've heard, but you've seen that they've pivoted on some of what he originally with Bone Collector, some things have changed, and how he works. So this is a great comic book series. I'm looking forward to seeing more come from it because we have Wave 5 coming. There's some characters we haven't heard of or seen. You also have
AF3. That's what it's called. AF3, not AFT3. So there you go.
Yep. And then you have you have what he's going to be announcing at DFW, and I'm assuming that you're going to get more characters, more history and lore. So I'm looking forward to it. Good comic book read. I've read every single one of the individual comics, the paperback ones that I have. That I got when they had them online when I first found the toy line, but it helped me dive into the toy line even more, where I'm kind of like, Joe, Valaverse or Akxion Force, like which one do I like more? Like I really connected to the Akxion Force story because I thought it was cool. So for me, that stuff like is really cool. And I think it really helps sell the product on both platforms, right? Both the paper and the plastic. Yep. The next one we have here, big one that comes close to my heart. We already talked about these guys a little bit earlier.
I'll let you cover this one completely, man. This is your baby.
Yeah. So Savage Crucible. I got the graphic novel as part of the Kickstarter. Basically, right after the Kickstarter funded, the comic came. I kept opening the comic because I'm like, oh, I can't wait till these Savage Crucible figures come out. And I kept falling asleep. Because I wait until it was late at night. I would wait till it was late at night. I'd be sitting in bed, it'd be after the wife was ready to fall asleep and turn off a TV or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start reading. I get through like a page or two, and I was like, ah. And then right before you and I kicked this stream off and really started the ToyLeet Takeover, I kind of was just like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna read that book. And I read it. And I read it cover to cover. And I've read it twice since then. It is an awesome novel, a graphic novel. The story is really cool. It really leaves you wanting more. But it really kind of helped me go from February, March time this year until, a couple weeks ago when I got my Lemurians in and got my Como and, Near Vineyard, whatever his name is, and the Royal Guards and all that stuff. It is a really cool, IP, and the comic does a great job selling the product. I'm really looking forward to Wave 2 because you have one of the main characters in the graphic novel that is going to be part of Wave 2. And then what I believe, if I understand it correctly, the next graphic novel that they're coming out with, or next, comic associated with it, is going to be around, what's his name? He's kind of like that dog looking person from Wave 2. And I can't think of what his Jaeger.
Yeah, that guy
So
looks
it's
awesome.
it's gonna be around him, and he's one of the cool looking figures that I'm really pumped for. So it'll be interesting to see when that comic comes out, because I want to see that story and background on it. So again, really, really cool series. Toy's awesome. You're seeing it all over Instagram if you follow them even slightly.
Yep.
What a jerk.
I mean,
Just
I haven't
block
read the
that guy.
comics yet, but the figures are really sweet. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see the comics, because these guys don't have an actual, like G.I. Joe, I'm kind of familiar with. Action Force, I'm familiar with because I got the figures and I know some of the background on it, right? But like Savage Crucible, other than looking at the pretty plastic, I really have no reference to the characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, I'm gonna have to package up. I'm gonna order another one because I want to get it graded and put it. I saw it graded at the convention photos they had from last weekend. I saw somebody had like a 9.8 graded copy on the table. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna have to get one of those graded just to put on the wall, because I
hang
have
up
this
on your
entire
wall.
collection.
Yep.
And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna order another one. So what I'll do is I'll send you out this one to read. You send this one back to me when you get that D17 one.
Yeah.
Down at Joe Fest.
Yep.
And you can take a read at this one, and then I'll have the one that I'm getting back that's graded to put in the case, because you can see I've read this one. The next one I don't want to.
You don't even.
I don't want to
crease it.
Yeah, I don't even want to crease it because I love this line. I love what Rob's doing over there at Savage Crucible, Havenger Studios. It's just such a cool community, and they're doing great stuff. Like I said, every day I go on Instagram, my Instagram is flooded with Savage Crucible fixtures. The photographers are doing awesome with that. So this is a situation where I feel like, again, the comic, maybe hopefully they do what the next guys that we're going to talk about do and keep driving it forward.
Yep.
And the next guys are my other favorite.
Yep.
AWOC. And do you have any of their comics yet, Ed?
I don't have any of their comics.
Oh my goodness, brother. So these guys,
the problem I have with the AWOC comic book is that I have such a lore built up in my head just surrounding Planet of the Apes and all the anthropomorphic storylines in my head, that I don't want to ruin that by reading the comic and be like, oh, I didn't know that about that character, because it's kind of like when you see a cool character for like a movie promotion or something, right? And then they do the movie and it's like not at all what you had in your head, right? It's like, ugh.
Yeah. No, I understand that. These are great. These are great comics. They've recently got themselves tied up with Diamond Distribution. So if it is something you're looking for, go hit up your local comic book shop and pay a few bucks and get a comic. If you're anywhere in the area here, hit me up on Instagram. I order 3 of these a month, one for my youngest son, Son of Wonder, and then I order one for myself that I haven't read, and then I order a third one that I leave in the comic book shop, so that the comic book shop owner, 1, makes an extra sale, and 2, gives that issue out to new folks so that they can find the lore and then maybe find the toy line, hopefully helping spread Spiro's product there. And I want to Brick just said this, and I want to show this real quick. Do you mind pulling that one up I just starred?
Yeah, hold on.
It says I need issue 6.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, Brick, I don't like you anymore, because what you're implying there is you've already seen issue 5 and I haven't, and it's not public yet, and I don't want to pull any strings or beg and plead and grovel at you, Adam, or Jason's feet, or Derek, or Ed, any of you guys, and beg and plead for access to issue 5. I will wait until my comic book store gets it. But it's so not cool advertising that you're looking forward to issue number 6 when some of us lowly, groundswellers are just sitting here at, comic 4. But yeah, this is a cool one. We know I love AWOC. Double back the newest Kickstarter. Love that they do great stuff. Oh, okay. Maybe Ed, or maybe Brick, I don't dislike you so much anymore. Yes, but you still have seen book 5 that I still haven't seen. So you have that over me. That said, really cool lore. I love Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. Jason crafting this whole concept in his head. I never followed the original 4-inch line. I know he did some stuff with the lore there. I believe my understanding is he pivoted quite a bit to a degree with the 6-inch scale ones. And I love everything he's done with it. It's great. I have utmost faith in what he's bringing forward for that comic. And as you can see, the toys that are coming, they're doing each other a big favor. And if they cross promote both, I can only see bigger and better things for him.
Yep.
Good deal. And yes, what Brick just said with Utama's art is some glorious stuff. Yep. The artist for the Animal Warriors Kingdom, I follow him on Instagram. His art is amazing, whether it's the AWOC stuff or the other stuff he's working on. He is awesome. Go give him a follow because the work he does is great. And again, support a real artist, support anything associated with AWOCs. The next one here, Ed, I think that everyone in the chat can talk about, because I'm pretty confident everyone in the chat has a license to sell this product. In this chat, anywhere in the US, heck, in Canada and in China, everyone has access, except
pretty much if you have a favorite toy company, they probably have the license for Ninja Turtles.
Except for Hasbro and Valaverse at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Joy Toy has them now, and I think that was like the last one.
Joy Toy, Mezco, NECA,
exactly.
Playmates. So Mattel got their Masters of the Universe toy turtle crossover. So yeah, pretty much everybody.
Yeah. So you have the Last Ronin here. That's the most recent one that comes to my mind, more adult oriented. And then you have the Last Ronin figures from NECA, got a darker look and feel to it. I think
cool thing is the story. I don't know if you've read this comic, but I
have.
The story is great, and they're actually doing a live action movie coming out soon.
I saw that, and I think they're doing a prequel comic to it, or already have, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know if that one's out yet, but I know it was in the works anyway. I don't know about it. I read this one a couple years back, and man, I was just blown away by this. This whole story was just so much what, as a kid, watching the Turtles, because I was kind of too old for that toy line to get into it. But the movies were out. Like, I went on a date in my freshman year with a girl, and I took her to see the first Turtles movie. I was in 9th grade, and so it was like, seeing that live action and then like seeing this story was just like so much of what I wanted the Turtles to be, because it was so much, darker and grittier, that.
Are you talking about the original live action?
Yeah, the original live action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I still remember every Christmas for like 3 years in a row, or 2 years at least, getting the original one Christmas, and then like the year or two later getting it on VHS for The Secret of the Ooze, and it being like one of the biggest gifts we could get for Christmas was getting those movies.
Yeah, but then like reading this comic book, it was just like when I saw the original movie, then I read this comic book. It was like, that's what I want Turtles to be, just this dark, gritty, really, really cool, story. And they did this story so well. I mean, the Turtles are cool in every iteration they come out in, right? All the movies have been enjoyable. All the toy lines are great, but this comic book was just amazing, and the figures that are being made for it are just incredible too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of why I saved this one for what we're presenting as the last. There's a couple things we'll talk about after this before we wrap up the main topic. But this one here, to me, wasn't so much just the Last Ronin. It's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IP as a whole. Yep. And it's paper to plastic to paper, right? And the idea that they have, and it goes back to how we entered it, everyone has access to the IP. I think Fat Red is, delivering something in a couple months.
Probably.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm pretty sure Rhea, who just joined, is probably doing this too. But in regards to this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from when I was a kid, and you got the little plastic green men that were, what are they, like maybe 5.5 inches, give or take. You could pop the back open and stuff some weapons in there, and you had all of those, and to me, they are the bar when it comes to comic to plastic, because they've crossed generations. Outside of GI Joe, they've crossed generations since that time frame in the 80s, 90s when they started coming out, and we're sitting here in 2024, and we're talking
realistically,
about
outside of GI Joe and Barbie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is probably one of the longest. Well, Motu also, right?
Well, yeah,
they fall in the top 5 longest lasting toy lines. And the crazy thing is like with the Turtles, they just come back the same, right? And new kids are actually getting into the Turtles, which is cool, because a lot of like GI Joe and Motu and stuff like that, it's the old guys that are still into it, right? It's a nostalgia thing. Where Turtles come out, and it's like, I was just in Walmart yesterday, or what is today, Tuesday? Yeah, so it was yesterday. I was in Walmart, and there was 2 young kids standing in the turtle, section, just thumbing through, looking for, whatever figures they're looking for, right? Probably 8, 10 years old. It was like, that is awesome, right? It's like,
exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Ed, what other plastic to panels to plastic that we didn't add here to the slides did you think?
So let's just pop this one up, because this has got some good ones in it. Micronauts, Shogun Warriors, Sectars. Those were some of my favorite comic book toy crossover promotions. Now, some of those ended up being, like Sectars became a cartoon, but along this lines, you had Chris Starr from Marvel, who was originally a comic book character, turned into a toy line and then a cartoon. Really cool figures. Marvel Legends just released that new figure recently of that one. And then Rom, the Space Knight, was an awesome comic book. They ended up making like this robot action figure, kind of like, you wind it up and it does whatever it does, right? Those are both pretty cool ones that I remember from, my childhood. And it's like, like we said in the beginning, you could go on forever about all the other ones, like all the superhero ones and everything, right? But like, the ones that we named are probably like the most common ones that are in today's world, that are just, making the lore enjoyable again. For a lack of a better way of doing it, right? They've taken a lot of the 80s campiness out of it and made it into like really, good stories with some depth and some, different perspective, as opposed to just, oh, this guy's always going to be the hero no matter what, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point, as you're saying that, right? They've taken some of that campiness and stuff away from it, but also, an example is, and I've said this before on other streams, is Savage Crucible is your adult targeted audience, right? And Brick said it earlier in the chat. He loved that comic, or liked the comic, because of the fact that it felt like the Savage Crucible, and the idea behind it, you could bring any character of any world into it because of the way the whole thing works, right? Or we don't know how it works yet, right? But it gives you this idea that anything could be there. But going to the point is that it's more adult centric. The toys, even themselves, to a degree, are more adult centric. They're darker, they're more gritty. And then you have the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, which has done a great job of kind of covering what I think, I always use the example, Mr. Wonderful and Son of Wonder can both engage with the AWOCs. He uses the Savage Crucible, but I don't quite, think he would be just yet interested into that darker, grittier story of the Crucible.
I can see AWOC doing something like the Turtles, right? They have the more general audience focus, and then they could definitely do a grittier comic like The Last Ronin. They could do something along those lines, because the characters have the depth for it. But Jason doesn't want to take his line there now, right? And that's all respect to him, because his stories, the characters that he's developing and stuff are awesome anyway. So he doesn't have to at this point. But yeah, it's definitely a good line for, for father and son bonding ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can hand them the plastic. I'm not worried about them breaking it. The only idiot that's broken one of my AWOCs is this idiot right here.
Yep.
and I've replaced it.
Yep.
And that was my own fault
all because he didn't ask his partner in crime or go to the Brick and Adam show and find out how to take it apart.
Which I do know now how to do, and I can do it much more effectively. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That said, Ed, you know, there's a lot of things that have gone from panel to plastic to panel. But one thing, as we were digging into this over the last couple of weeks, and we had a little bit longer because we had the break last week, we were going back and forth and chatting about it, is the topic kind of evolved a little bit for us as we were talking about it to a degree, right? It was not just plastic to panels to plastic, but it's plastic that doesn't yet have a panel or a significant presence on the panel. And that was kind of where we started talking about what toy lines that we kind of talk about right now, or that we're focusing in on from the independent toy lines, those independent creators that aren't delivering a graphic novel, a panel, a comic consistently, or investing time in it that would truly benefit from it. And the one that came to my mind the most was the Four Horsemen's Mythic Legion. You could probably do something really freaking badass and cool with the Cosmic Legions too, since you're so early into that. But the Four Horsemen on their Mythic Legions have such a wide range of lore and stuff. And I know they're working on some novels and things like that. And I do know, and it was brought to my attention the other day during a stream, that they do have in their Cabal a graphic novel or some lore comic PDF that you can download and review or read and such, that gives you a little insight, but it's not consistent. And what I mean by consistent is they haven't reproduced additional
it's kind of like
episodes.
Fresh Monkey Fiction with their Monster Force. So they released a comic book last year that had some comic book pages, right, that just had like a brief part of the story. And in the comic book itself, it had a bunch of like characters and their bios, right? They are in development of a comic book for that figure line, as well as their Eagle Force line, but they're not out yet. And one thing I was telling you during our conversations is that even like I started collecting AWOC, and it's only been recently, you know, not recently, but probably last year at PowerCon, after I started collecting the figures when they first came out, that I even knew that there was a comic attached to them. I think a lot of these companies could do a lot better at promoting the comics and the figures more maybe in sync with each other, so you know that that's out there, right? I mean, like the Last Ronin was a comic book that was developed and then the figures came later, right? But it was based off of the Turtles. But like Sparrow, that comic book, everybody that's read it loves it. But
absolutely,
I didn't even know it existed, right? I didn't know there was that kind of lore to it.
And that's the thing. So the ones that we discussed that are on the lower end, right? And what I mean by lower end is more independent, you know, Vala, Savage, and Kingdom. Those three are independent producers, right? Like they're not Joe and they're not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so they're not publicly acknowledged by a large consumer base, right? So that how do you get in front of that consumer base? Cross promote, get that diamond deal. I don't know all the behind it. I know it's a whole nother branch and wing of your business, but I think like Spiro, I think they're headed in the right direction. I don't know what that cost or took them to do, but they're doing it right. I don't know if there's another way to do it. Self-produce it, self-publish it, add it to your inventory on your site and distribute it on your own. But Four Horsemen, they had a graphic novel, and Joe, he's a huge, I saw him in the chat commenting, he's a huge fan of Four Horsemen. I think he has everything in doubles and triples and whatever on Four Horsemen figures.
You know, the thing is, though, it's so easy nowadays to create a digital comic. Not that it's easy, but I'm saying like there's no publishing and there's no, you know, sending it out, right? The physical copy, right? That even someone like Mythic Legions with the internet presence, social media,
their Cabal,
they have, they could easily put out a digital comic book and sell it for $1 an issue or whatever, and still make a fortune on just selling that digital copy for $1.
I do believe so. I do believe there's a market there, and I think that that dollars are being lost by not producing that. And then Four Horsemen comes to my thought process at the top of my head, because they're the biggest ones with a large cult following that produces a great plastic, but we need to get that shiny pictured paper that expands the lore and blows that thing up, because that will
like you're going to see something probably at some point. But like a lot of those companies that are coming out now with the Kickstarters Eagle Force, Monster Force, Fist, right? They're coming out with, I don't know if their comics are going to be digital or if there's actually going to be physical copies, but they got comic book panels they're creating, right? So it's kind of like the new way to skip the whole animation cartoon thing, but still give that lore back in a format that's digestible.
Yeah, it eliminates the need to put a Saturday morning commercial on for your kids sitting in front of a bowl of cereal to get that comic book in somebody's hand on their screen, whatever it is, so that they can explore the lore, which then allows them to start to muster up their own ideas. At the
end of the day, comic books are great for kids because they're enjoyable to read and they can learn how to read at the same time. I know Thanos Copter talks about it all the time, that he learned how to read by his mom reading the mini comics that came with his Masters of the Universe figures. I mean, that's
awesome.
I mean, that's just awesome. It, right? They're great for kids and they're great to learn the lore. If you get ones that's not, adult oriented, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point to close off on the main topic tonight. We will cover, some of the questions here in a minute in the chat. But before we do that, let's talk about next week, because next week is going to be a new show, a new episode. We're going to do a little different. We're going to bring some guests on. We're not naming names. We're not dropping names right now. But we're going to have some guests. It's going to be a little different show. We're still going to, you're still going to find out if something gets flushed, floated, or put on the ToyLeet and put on your shelf. We're still going to give you the weekly news. Might be a brief, more brief news segment and whatnot. But and we'll have the main topic. The main topic for next week is Yo Joe June, the Ultimate G.I. Joe Celebration Special. And what we're doing is we're bringing in 4 guests. Well, 3 guests.
3 guests in a regular.
Ed isn't hosting the show anymore. Ed is going to be a guest, so he's one of the guests. And what we're bringing in 4 folks. I'm going to act as a panel host. We're going to have all 4 guests on. We've got some questions, some conversation points. Want to talk about all the different scales. Each one of the guests typically has been a Joe fan for life, and each one of them aligns with a specific Joe scale for the most part. They all kind of cross across, but have their preferences too. And yes, it will be officially known as Fat Red said, Travis Takeover. It is Yo Joe June, and we'll have those guests in. We'll have a panel.
What he meant to say is the Travis Leet Takeover is what he really meant.
I like it. So we'll go ahead and we'll go through that. So tune in next week. Check out the next episode here, and we'll be going over the Ultimate G.I. Joe Celebration in preparation for Joe Fest. We know we got DFW coming up and Joe Fest later this month. We know it's Yo Joe June. They kicked it off with Hasbro today with all their announcements. So we'll be talking Joe in the main topic, and really talking to some attendees of the upcoming Joe Fest later this month. So definitely tune in, and we'll be taking chat comments. We'll be, letting folks ask questions, but we got a few special guests. The first time we're having guests on the show, and see if I can talk less and listen more. 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Well, that's going to be a challenge for you.
Oh, frickin' yes, it is.
Let your toys breathe, do this. Toys on the desk, it's the new habitat. ToyLeet Takeover, we're loving that. It's a stack high in the air where it's at. Everywhere's a playground for Mr. Wundrful. In the office, living room, let them breathe. Akxion Figs hit the trail through the mud and undersell. It's a ToyLeet life beyond the shelf we prevail. Figures and cents in perfect place with extra stack we own the space. From battle seeds to epic quests, our collection's always at its best. Extra stack high in the air where it's at. Everywhere's a playground for Mr. Wundrful. In the office, living room, let them breathe. Akxion Figs hit the trail through the mud and undersell. It's a ToyLeet life beyond the shelf we prevail. So like, subscribe, and join our crew. Check us on Instagram, we've got news for you. Back to stack, it's when dreams come true. ToyLeet Takeover, we're here for you. Thanks for tuning in, feel the vibe. Toys in our world come alive. Next week, same time, don't miss the ride. With ToyLeet Takeover.
love.